I feel like we are so far behind on this Evo 10. My original goal with this car was to get the motor in the car Friday and running yesterday. Today is now Sunday and the car is still not running, but it's all good. We had other stuff going on, and huge shout out to everyone who came up to the meet last night. It was absolutely epic. So today it's grind time. I'm gonna try to get as much done today as possible, and if we don't have any hiccups, any road bumps, any speed bumps in the road, then this car will be running by the end of this video. Let's get to work. Let's start off with buttoning up some stuff up here. We have the AC compressor to get on, and then once everything right here is done, I'm not gonna do the intake manifold yet. We're gonna move on to the turbo. So the exhaust manifold, the turbo, all the coolant lines, oil lines, all that stuff is kind of tight back here. So we'll definitely have to be pulling off the strut bar, and hopefully we can get all that on and situated easily. All right, so the AC compressor's on, power steering's on, every single motor mount is on, all good to go there. Let's move on to the turbo stuff. I just want to get that out of the way. It's probably the most difficult thing to do right now is the turbo and exhaust manifold. So yeah, there's not that much space back here, and it's kind of a pain, but we'll figure it out. All right, a little mistake. We got the whole turbo on, the manifold on, everything's bolted up. I went to put on the oil return line onto the block, and it's not really flexible at all. It's like an 1/8 inch or probably a 1/4 inch off. There's no way to get the oil drain onto the block without like completely taking off, or at least completely loosening up the turbo or the manifold from the motor. So guys, learn from my mistakes. Make sure you get the oil drain on, the oil return on first before you actually get everything tightened up. I did this before in the past on a stock turbo as well. I remember that, and I ended up bending the line, getting it on, and everything leaked. So I'm just gonna do it right the first time and take the turbo, I guess, kind of back off and get the return on, and then we can move back forward. All of the turbo stuff is situated. We got it all figured out. Next thing we're gonna move on to is the alternator, getting all the pulleys on this side, the tensioner, and getting the accessory belt on. From there, it's like shifter cables, harness, intake, manifold, all the intercooler piping, the intercooler, AC condenser can go up, radiator can go in, throw oil in it, throw coolant in it, gear oil, center diff oil, and hopefully start up for the first time. So we have made some very good progress on this Evo over the last couple hours. All the wiring is done, intake manifold is on, alternator, power steering, everything that you guys saw obviously is on now. Shifter cables, everything's good to go there. Pretty much what we have left to start this car up. New oil cooler, because actually there wasn't even one on here when I bought it. So get the new oil cooler on with all the lines. Radiator, coolant, oil, intake, intercooler piping, exhaust. One thing I need to do, and it may take a while, is drain the full fuel tank and blow out the lines and put new gas in it, because this car was sitting for about 3 years, 2 to 3 years, somewhere in there, and I don't want old shitty gas going through a brand new motor. So I don't even know if it'd run with really old gas. But yeah, definitely gonna have to get that done before we try starting this car up. So this is currently where we are sitting. I'm gonna move on to starting to add some fluids to it. So before I put the airbox on, the OEM airbox, I'm gonna start adding all the training fluid, because as soon as I throw the airbox on, the fill plug, which is that guy right there, will be fully covered up. So let's throw gear oil in it, get the intake on, the BOV piping and all that stuff, and then move on to the exhaust system. So I always run the Redline cocktail. It's 2 MTL and 1 MT90, I believe. And how I put the gear oil in is I have a hose going into the transmission fill hole and just a funnel, and I'll just pour it right in, and I'll run through the hose into the transmission. Pretty easy to do it this way. Dudes, we have a serious problem. Or not that serious of a problem, but just a minor problem that is probably gonna allow us to not be able to start the car today. Which makes me really, really sad. It's like a kind of like slap in the face. I put the downpipe on, went to go put the cap back on, and I don't have the flange gasket. Yeah, I could just start it up with just an open downpipe, but the problem with that is I won't really be able to hear the motor if it's making any noise, if the tranny's making noise, if I have any odd random noises coming from the motor. I won't be able to hear that with just an open downpipe. So gasket will be here tomorrow. So I guess today we can kind of finish up what we started. We can add the oil to the motor, and we can still unplug the crank sensor and make sure it turns over so it's not a complete blue ball. But yeah, this thing is not going to be running until the next video, I'm pretty dang sure, which freaking sucks, unless magically I can find a gasket somehow. So let's button up a few things on the car, kind of clean up the shop, unplug that crank sensor, and make sure this thing actually turns over, because if it doesn't, we got to figure out why. So the oil we're going to be starting off running in this car is the usual Amazon break-in oil. It's 30 weight. I always run that on brand new motors, and I seem to love it. So yeah, let's throw some oil in here and then try to crank her over. Well, we don't have any oil leaks yet, so that is a good sign. One thing I completely forgot about is we still have to drain the full fuel tank. So I'm gonna pull the rear seat out, pull the fuel pump out, try to siphon all that gas out, and then blow the lines out as well and put new gas, put fresh gas in here. I don't know if I'll get to that today, but we definitely need to get that done before trying to start this car. Right now there is no fuel line on the car, and what I'm going to do is just take this big long hose and ride it outside the car into a can, just so when I turn it over it doesn't spray fuel, like old crusty nasty gas, all over the engine bay. So let's see if we can get to that down there. Ah, that's a pain in the ass to get to. All right, so yeah, honestly, I don't really care where it goes. I should probably put it in a gas can, but I'm only gonna turn it over for a split second. As of right now, I'm not completely sure if the tranny's topped off. The motor has four quarts of oil in it, so it's probably a tiny smidgen bit low, maybe like 0.1 quart low. The transfer case I have not checked, so we definitely don't want to be starting it up. Obviously, we don't have exhaust on it either. So how we're gonna get around that is, this is the crank sensor right here. We're at the bottom of the car. Just gonna take that and unplug it. So that should make the car not start. But just to be sure, I'm gonna take off the coil packs as well, because we really cannot have this thing start right now. I'm 99% sure pulling the crank sensor will do it, but I want to be 100% sure. Also, look how stock this engine bay looks. All these caps are going to go back to clear or whatever they are. I'm just going to take paint remover to them. That black bar is going to go black, and we still have the engine cover to put on. But this thing is completely stock. I've never seen an Evo stock. Like, even my Evo 10 had some stuff on it when I got it. It's pretty weird looking. All right, so I just need to hook up this battery, and we should be able to turn it over. This thing does have an Odyssey mini battery kit in it, which I'll definitely be selling, but that thing's 100% dead, so it definitely needs to be charged. And this thing is also a disaster, so don't mind it. All right, well, I just hooked up the battery and we got a fan on. I don't know why the fan is on. That seems a little bit strange, but yeah, all the lights came on. Should we send it, boys? Should we give her hell? What lights do we have on? Release parking brake. Check oil. Why are all these lights on right now? Huh. I'm gonna go ahead and try to turn it over and see what happens. Okay, Nothing's happening. Something is strange. Huh. Okay. It's not turning over. It's kind of doing what my Evo did a while ago. Remember those two wires I flipped around? So on my Evo 10, the last motor we built for it, do you guys remember I had two wires flipped around? I think one went to the starter, one went to the AC compressor. I wonder if those are flipped. I highly doubt it because I already had that problem in the past. So I'm 99% sure they're hooked up right. But all those lights are confusing me as well. The check oil, check coolant, all those lights that are coming on. I'm kind of confused as to why those are coming on right now. Yeah, at least the radio works. I don't know what kind of radio this is, but it's kind of dope when you turn it on. Check this out. Heron, Cobb, HKS, Brembo, like a bunch of cool stuff on it. Looks kind of dope. My freaking cluster is going wild. What the hell? Why is this happening? Another thing is the fan that turned on right when I turned on the key, or actually when I plugged in the battery, the fan turned on. The key was already in the ignition, so I don't know if it's like in valet mode, not valet mode. I don't freaking know. Why would the fan be on? Why would all those lights be flashing? I don't know, guys. I honestly don't know right now. I think I may have found the problem, guys. I'm just going over all the wiring right now because it's definitely a wiring problem. And one of the wiring clips on the tranny just popped right off. So it must have been not clipped on all the way. Oh man, it's a pain with this airbox in the way, but... Hear that? That is a good clip. That's a good connection. Let's give it a shot now. If the fans don't kick on right away, I think we are good. Fan still came on right away, but yeah, it's still nothing. I thought that was, I swore that was it. What is it? What's the problem? Ugh. So the check engine light is on. I'm gonna scan it real quick just to see if it gives me like an actual code as to what is going on. My dash literally is going wild. It's going crazy. I have no clue what the frick it is. Okay, so we have a linking error on the OBD2. Does that mean somehow my ECU is like bricked or frozen or not connected maybe? Maybe not connected. I do have two other 08 Evo 10 ECUs here, so it'd be really easy to check and swap out, but I hope that's not the problem. So I know exactly what is going on, guys. This ECU is bricked on this car. It's doing the exact same thing that it does if you are trying to reflash it, but I'm not trying to reflash it. I try to connect the OBD2 scanner and it won't read, so I know for a fact this ECU is bricked, which completely freaking sucks. One thing I'm not so sure I ever mentioned was this car, when it blew up, actually had a very, very small fire, and it caused a bunch of the wires in the harness to melt. So English Racing actually took the motor out of this car and they replaced the whole harness. So I'm kind of guessing when some of these wires melted, they probably touched together and it caused the ECU to brick. So this here is the ECU. Very easy to swap, very easy to get to. The only problem is I can't take the ECU, say out of Bobby's car or my other Evo 10, because it's linked to the VIN and also linked to the keys. And there's no Mitsubishi dealer near me to get everything like coded, I guess would be the proper word. So I am kind of at a loss as to what to do right now. I'm kind of thinking if I pull my ECU out, send it in with my keys and my VIN, maybe a dealer could like code it or program it for me. I don't know if I need to buy a new ECU. The only thing is I don't know if I need to buy a new ECU, if I can just send this one in, or if that's even an option. So guys, if you have any comments or suggestions, maybe if you work at a Mitsubishi dealer or know of someone that does, if you could ask him something, I don't know, drop a comment down below or shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you guys. One more thing I forgot to mention, about a year ago, maybe 8 months ago, the Mitsubishi dealer near me in Spokane went out of business. They just stopped having that dealer. They shut it down. So if I have to trailer this car somewhere, the closest one is in Seattle, which is a 5-hour drive. I'm not about to do that. Guys, please help your boy out.